Hello again, brothers and sisters in Christ. Pastor Mike here. Welcome to September, and welcome to our midweek meditation. Looking back at Sunday, it was a very interesting text, and then we're also going to be looking toward, next Sunday. But a couple things before then. Just a reminder, I believe it is coming up soon, is that day of remembrance for September 11th, brothers and sisters. It's one of those days in U.S. history of disaster, of pain and suffering. And definitely pray for the country and people who still carry the wounds of many ways from that event. Also, I was thinking about this week that I have not done my usual reminder. There's much going on in the world. There is stuff that I miss, stuff that I catch, stuff in this country of both concern and hope and joy. And my continued admonition is, when you see something, pray. Be it as something small as an ambulance going down the road, as something local that you hear through friends, family, and loved ones, or national news, as you know. There are numerous parts of the U.S. that and North America that light on fire. Pray for those in the paths of such realities and storms and hurricanes and all of those pieces. Pray for them when you see them. Please do. That is the stuff for the world at large that I just wanted to bring up. September 11th and many other disasters. And in general, the reminder, amidst sorrow in our world, pray and trust. Our text, though. Last week was the direct second half of Peter's confession. For those that joined us, Peter, confessed that you are the Messiah, and then immediately, almost afterwards in Matthew, Jesus says, "Well, the Son of Man needs to suffer and die," and Peter's like, "No, bubs, not happening. No." And there was the conflict where Jesus eventually says, "Get behind me, Satan." And it's amazing because Peter's passion and presence is so powerful, but he messes up almost immediately. He, goes in the wrong direction pretty quick. And God has grace for us in those realities. It's an interesting pair of texts. But our text continues to move on as well, and our Matthew text is important because it is really about this weird concept of church discipline. And that is a very interesting concept, and that is what I'm hoping to talk about on Sunday, even as I'm thinking about themes and those sorts of things, sort of hoping. But we never know. That's maybe one of those side notes on this. We never know, sometimes until Sunday morning, if something hits me wrong, or maybe, God bless, it's the work of the Spirit where it says, you were thinking you need to talk about this, but what you do need to talk about is this. And that sometimes happens. I know I freaked out my internship supervisor because at an early service I did one sermon, and at the second service I did a totally different sermon on the second topic. He did not appreciate that at all. I've never had anybody look that mad during a sermon. But one of the interesting pieces that I wanted to bring up was the Romans text. Again, I often take this time to look at first reading, second reading. I should do more with the Psalms, but the Psalms, I don't know, Psalms are hard to add to. Psalms really speak for themselves. They're a blessing. Read them. I know as we're doing the Read Through the Bible that we're doing on Tuesdays, there's a lot of good stuff in the Psalms. Blessings there. Definitely listen to those. But our Romans text is very interesting. It's Romans 13, 8 through 14. Owe no one anything except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law, the commandments. You shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. And any other commandment are summed up in this word: love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love is fulfilling of the law. This is interesting. There was discussion numerous times at this Bible study about law and how do Christians follow it. And what the important lesson here and what Christ does is, and this is definitely the teaching portion of ministry, of the law is there. And the law is not bad. But what the law is pointing toward and the heart of the purpose of the law, the motive of the law, why it's there, is to call, admonish, push, goad us into this love and acting for the well-being of our neighbor. And Christ is trying to show us that when our true motive is not selfish, that it is love of neighbor because we see Christ in them, that we love God, love neighbor, that inexorable link, we fulfill what the truth, the hope, the reality, every jot and tittle of the law when we live out that reality. That's the goal. Ultimately, at the end, if you use the lens of the law is meant to be a guide for us on how to love the neighbor, it helps. I mean, it might seem weird, but even then, over and over again, when we take our neighbor's well-being into consideration and we take that lens, that should make the law clear. And that is both blessing and curse. That on some simple level, we always know what God is calling us to live out. We are called to live out God's love, our love for Him, His love for us, for the well-being of the neighbor, to care for them, make the world a better place. Story of Good Samaritan is a big example of that. But the problem is, and this is the struggle, is that as it is, as obvious, as simple as just do this, we run into the problem of it can be difficult because of the brokenness of the world, our brokenness, their brokenness, and that often causes the friction. And the law, I think the letter of the law is there to help ease that friction in the loving of the neighbor. It's not easy. Loving neighbor can be hard. And sometimes it's easier to love the neighbor in things like Feed My Starving Children. Again, a plug for that. Please sign up. It's awesome. It's great. It's a great way to help the neighbor, to show love to the neighbor. Because I might never have to meet that person. It is easy to love the concept of a person, the idea of a person, than sometimes in the nitty-gritty of actually living day in and day out with a person. If anyone has had kids, anyone had parents, spouses, siblings, all of these things. There might have been a person in there that we love, but makes our teeth itch at time. And that is the friction of loving the neighbor, because we're broken and they're broken. But God continues to push us, call us to that, and not to fall into legalism, where you use the law as a tool to beat up somebody else. Because sometimes the law is less about somebody being like, hey, this can guide me, this can help me focus, this can help me think through this. And it becomes this weapon of, judgment and admonition of you're just the worst because of this, and this. And that's why Christ reminds us, log and speck, man. Log and speck. You complain about the speck in their eye when there's a log jutting out of yours. And that is really the twisted reality of the law when we don't understand it. That it is not about goading or beating others, but that tool for us to guide and to think so that we can love the neighbor. Hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this is grist for the mill when we think about what does it mean to live faithfully, to live that faithful life, to love the neighbor, and to do that. Well, hopefully on Sunday I will talk more about the gospel lesson because it is important as well. The first one is always important too. I think it's very interesting. I think the first lesson is really interesting when it comes to responsibilities and who is responsible for what. But that is another topic for another day. Well, blessings, brothers and sisters in Christ. As always, may Christ's peace be with you, and may your day be blessed. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.